Okay.
You can make some faces. That was perfect. All right, let me pull the music down. Hey everybody, welcome to Parrish Studio, and we have a true legend with us today, Steve Bronski from Bronski Beat in the 80s, and still around, live and kicking, and looking quite fabulous. Welcome. Steve and I are friends. We've done some tracks together. One of my most favorite we did together was a track called Closet Queen. So I actually loved doing that. If you don't know who Bronski Beat is, you've been living under a rock. They were an amazing pop group in the 80s, a synth pop group. And we're going to go through a little bit of Wikipedia and ask him some questions. And then what I want to do for you guys listening in is talk to him about what his creative process is, because we all have different creative processes, and I'd just like to show how different people do music, and that may help you. All right, Steve, you ready to knock this out?
No.
Okay, good, perfect. So we'll go through Wikipedia. A lot of Wikipedia is inaccurate. They say that I'm a black guy living in the Bronx, and I'm not. You can see. So there's going to be some mistakes in Wikipedia, and we can try to fix them. But I'll start at the beginning. It says Bronski Beat formed in '83 when Somerville, Bronski, both from Glasgow, and is it Steinbachek?
Steinbachek.
Yeah.
That's his stage.
A stage name, okay. Shared a 3-bedroom flat in Lancaster House in Brixton. Was that like a girls' sorority house with pantyhose hanging up all over the place? I mean, what was that like? 3 guys in a room.
It was a lesbian's house, and she had 3 bedrooms. Jimmy shared one with his friend Connie, and Laurie and I had our own bedroom, and Jill had her own bedroom.
Fantastic. So it was really a family affair, so to speak. So you got to live together and write music together. That must have been pretty great and intense at the same time. So it said Steinbachek. I'm sorry?
It wasn't intense. What makes you say intense?
Well, because, you know, who's in the bathroom the longest, you know what I mean? So it says Steinbachek. It says Steinbachek heard Somerville singing during the making of Framed Youth, Revenge of the Teenage Perverts. And if I flip over that, it says that it's a documentary produced by London Lesbian and Gay Video Project, which gay lesbian teenagers interviewed straight people on the streets of London about their views on homosexuality. That's pretty cool for the 80s. That's actually pretty cool. So
it was, but Larry wasn't involved in it. It was just Jimmy.
Just Jimmy, okay. And it says you first publicly performed at an arts festival, September in the Pink. Is that like Purple in the Park, which is a gay and lesbian festival that happened? Did I just lose you? There you go. You were voguing a cigarette on a freeze frame. I don't know if you heard me.
I thought so.
Oh yeah, it says your first performance was at an arts festival, September in the Pink. Is that like Purple in the Park?
Like what? Purple in the Park? September in the Pink?
It said you performed at a festival called September in the Pink. That was your first live gig. And then you signed a contract with London Records after doing 9 live gigs. That's actually pretty great. What was your first record deal like on London Records? Was it fair? Was it fun? Was there a lot of pressure as young kids?
It was fair, it was fun, and it was a lot of pressure. We were not young kids. We were 23. Young men, I guess you could call it. It was very interesting.
And was Small Town Boy done at that time? Was that your first single that came out on London Records? And was it written before your deal or after your deal?
Well, it was a mixture of two songs together.
Oh.
I forget the name of the first song. Run From Love, it was called.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
And then we added that chorus, that runaway, turn away thing, that came from nowhere, if you understand.
Or did that come in the studio as you were recording it or laying it down? I mean, because when I did Hip Hop Bebop, we didn't have any vocals, and we just opened a mic and we had we wound up with dog barks and stuff like that.
Well, we actually wrote it in Larry's bedroom.
Fantastic.
That was our makeshift studio, to say what it was, yeah.
So what was your studio back then? Was it just a guitar and a tape recorder? Was it a computer setup? Was it a couple of keyboards and not recording anything?
It was a Porta Studio, a guitar, a Casio, and a Pro One from... I forget the name of the company that made that.
The Pro One is Prophet. Dave Smith from Sequential Circuits. I want to let people know what a Porta Studio was, because a lot of kids today are spoiled with, computers. A Porta Studio was a cassette multi-track tape recorder, and it severely compressed sound. And you were able. What did the Porta Studio have? 4 tracks? Was it 4 tracks on a Porta Studio?
It had 4 tracks, but you could record it, say, without it sounding too...
Yeah, you could bounce stuff...
Not compressed, etc.
Yeah, you could...
Yeah.
Yeah, you could bounce stuff down and layer
yeah,
it.
we also had the bass drum on 1 track. Track 2, we had the rest of the drums. Track 3 and 4, we had the stereo mix, which we bounced down to another track. Then we had Jimmy's vocal.
So
that's how we did it.
Was Small Town Boy recorded on a Porta Studio?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So it wasn't bounced up to 24 track and then another 50 tracks layered into it. It was just basically a Porta Studio release.
It was a Porta Studio release. We used that as the demo.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Then we went into a 4-track studio, which London paid for. Abba's studio, actually, in Victoria, here in London. And we did the demo of it. And then we went to John Fox's studio from Ultravox to record the proper single with Mike Thorne, who happens to live in New York at the moment.
Wow.
And he lived in New York.
Yeah, I remember you lived in New York because in 1983 you worked at a studio in Brooklyn with my friend Frankie Bonadonna. You did something there, and I came in right after you, and you said Steve Bronski was here, and he would love to meet you. And I went, oh my God, my favorite, what an idol. So many, 100 million years ago, we almost crossed paths. So was that recorded in New York? It was recorded in London, but you were living in New York? Small Town Boy, was it recorded in London or in New York?
No, I was London before I moved to New York.
Before you moved, okay, great.
Very happy. Oh, you got lost.
So you did it. It went to number 3 on the singles charts. That's quite a big deal. And it says reached 48 in the U.S. charts and 7 in Australia. Congratulations on that. That's
Can you hear me?
I can totally hear you. Yes, I can. I can hear you. There might be a slight delay going on, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It said you released your first album called Ages and...
It was recorded in London.
Right.
In John Fox studio from Ultravox.
That's awesome. Good pedigree. There's some good pedigree there. It says your first album called Age of Consent. It was the inner sleeve listed various ages of consent for consensual gay sex in different nations around the world. I think that's incredible. So did the record company give you any kind of flack for putting that on the inner sleeve, or are they totally supportive of your open stance on, you know, sexuality? Did they give you any stress about that?
No, of course they didn't. I think for them it was something new and something that had never been tapped into before, if you get my meaning.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, record companies can look at it one of two ways. It could be something scandalous that they don't want to touch back in the 80s, or it could be just something that'll add to the publicity and what you're doing. So you're very lucky to have a label that was consenting. We came from America, where here that was totally taboo and nobody touched that subject, you know?
Yeah. True, yeah.
Yeah, you're lucky. All right, I'm trying to move on a little bit. It says you joined up with Mark Arman to record a version of Donna Summer's "I Feel Love." The version had a medley, incorporated snippets of "Love to Love You, Baby" and "Johnny Remember Me." Wow, it was a big success, reaching #3 in the charts, equaling "Small Town Boy." That's fantastic. Is there a place afterwards that I could link that would have all of this? Maybe you could send me something, so if there's videos on YouTube, I can get people to listen to this, because I'd like them to know your history and a lot of these achievements. Quite often when you have a group, people only think of you as somebody who did one song, and you have done a lot of work and continue to do work, and I want people to understand that. You know, they may say this small town boy, but you have albums and you have all kinds of wonderful achievements here. Do we talk about Jimmy Somerville, or do we pass that over? That's your choice. I'm sorry, it conked out. I think you're probably saying let's pass it over. So let's go ahead and do that. It says in '87 you performed for International AIDS Day, supported by New Order at Brixton Academy in London. That's absolutely fantastic. Right. And you guys did a Cha-Cha Heels with Eartha Kitt.
No, we did it with Pete Burns.
Oh, it says over here Eartha Kitt. Well, same drag queen sideways, you know what I mean? So I got to meet Pete in London. He was quite a trip. He kept telling me how straight he was, you know what I mean? And I kept rolling my eyes around, you know. So what was it like? Did you do that in a small studio? Did you work with Pete in a big studio? And was it Cha-Cha Heels?
Oh, it was all totally live, and I don't think it was Cha-Cha Heels, if I remember back. Let me think about it 1 second.
It says over here that you had Cha-Cha Heels with Eartha Kitt at Peak 32 in the UK. The song was written for a movie for Divine. I was supposed to work with Divine too, but she passed away.
Yeah. I was going to push Pete Burns off the stage.
Pete was a handful, wasn't he? God bless that poor mess. You know what I mean? Oh my God. All right. She was quite a thing. I see you got to work with ZYX Music, which when we did Man to Man, stuff was sold there. So that was a label out of Germany that really supported a lot of electronic and what they used to call high energy music in the 90s and stuff like that. You've won some awards, haven't you? I'm trying to find where I read that you've actually won some awards, and I can't seem to find it right at the moment. So, you teamed up with one-off with Jessica James because she reminded you of Divine and sounded like Eartha Kitt. I don't know how accurate this is, but if that sounds fantastic. Teamed up with Ian Donaldson with the aim of bringing Bronski beat back in 2016. Stephen Granville with a new singer. And Bronski Beat released a rework of Age of Consent entitled Age of Reason. So did you take that Age of Consent album and kind of redo it and modernize it and re-release it? Is that what Age of Reason was with a new singer?
Yes, of course.
That's a fantastic idea, because I've been thinking of doing that with my first record. So did you go back to original tracks, or did you build everything from scratch again?
we built everything from scratch again.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That is really fantastic and awesome.
Well, I thought to reintroduce the band to today's public, what better way than to do it than redo the Age of Consent, you know?
So was it done with, was it a mixture of old and new, or did you completely throw out that old quote-unquote sound and just do it completely fresh? I mean, what was your goal? Was your goal to kind of take some old stuff and modernize it, or is it to wipe the slate clean and just do a completely new sound? Because you have a very strong sound. I've heard your demos, which I think are fantastic. You have a unique musical voice. I hear your stuff and I know it's yours right away. I think it's fantastic. So when you redid the album, was it taking the old and combining it with the new, or did you tell yourself, I don't want to do anything old, I'm just going to do something completely out of my comfort zone? Age of Reason.
Well, it was reintroducing the Age of Consent to today's youngsters. So I didn't really think about it at the time. Just redid it, I guess.
Right. Okay, great. And people can find this on iTunes and places. Please don't stream it. Please buy it. We work really hard. We need that 5 cents that you get from streaming an album. All right. So currently, is it the Bronskis? Is it Bronski Beat? What are you calling? Well, first of all, is there a group together? Is it you as a solo artist with people behind you? What is your group band concept right now, so people know?
Okay, we have the Bronski Beats. We have myself as a solo artist called Steve Bronski.
Right.
Ian does a project called Sordid Sounds.
Great.
And I'm trying to get him into the TV and film industry. And our singer is a singer, I guess.
And who is your singer right now? Who is your singer right now?
He's called Stephen Granville.
Right, which I mentioned. He's still with you. Is there pressure because of Jimmy's voice for Stephen to sound like that, or you just was Jimmy's voice a Bronski sound, or was it his voice and it doesn't make a difference that he's left because your new singer has his own identity? Or was there pressure publicly to have him sound a little bit like Jimmy when you do, songs, because, Jimmy was a voice on your music? I'm doing this because I'm trying to help other people that are doing bands to figure out, are there public pressures? Do you have to sit down and think, oh, our lead singer left, do we replace him with somebody new, or do we try to, not imitate, but carry our sound? That's why I'm asking these questions.
Well, of course he's got his own sound, Stephen has. The fact that Jimmy sings high is not relevant to what Larry and I were doing. He was just our first singer. Then we got a guy called John Foster in.
Right.
Who sounded totally different. And maybe he sounded a little plain compared to Jimmy. And then we had another singer called Jonathan Hellier, who was a perfect imitator. He could imitate Jimmy, he could imitate John. He could imitate you, for instance.
Oh, I sing with a vocoder, so if he can imitate me with a microphone, let's hire him. Less work for me to do.
Yeah. And then I sang for the band, but we never really recorded. Well, we did record. We presented it to London Records, but they dropped us, unfortunately. So we went to ZYX in Germany instead.
Can we talk about London Records?
They sent me to a company in Italy called Saifam, Saifam. So the album sounded sort of Italian-ish or esque.
Italian or Italio disco?
And then Italian disco.
Cool. You know, it's funny, a lot of that high energy Italian disco stuff back in the day, we did Man to Man, and that was sort of like, okay, but I never considered it real music. It was like dum 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 dum, do a couple of chord changes. And now suddenly it's like hip and cool to do Italio disco and high energy, you know, the stuff that I thought, my God, I wish I could write real music, you know what I mean? And now it's like the coolest stuff you could possibly do. Fantastic.
And then after that, I went to Thailand for 7 years.
Wow.
And I had 7 Thai bands.
Wow. As well. What were they girly boys?
So, I forget the name of the bands actually. I'll remember it slowly.
That's okay. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And in Thailand, did you do local clubs, playing local clubs? Did you tour in Thailand?
No, I just went into studios, etc.
And where is that?
I have some.
Where is that music? Is that music just demos? Is that music that you released? Can people hear that?
No, they can't hear it because we didn't release it. We should have. They weren't bad demos or anything. Proper recordings, of course. I'm sure we'll come out with those someday. I can still remember all the tunes, etc.
You should do a box set of B-sides and demos. I'm thinking about doing that because I have a huge collection of music that nobody's heard. And if you release it as B-sides and demos, there's no pressure to have a hit on it. It's just some hysterical, some historical stuff that people might be interested in. It could be hysterical too. Yeah, some hysterical tracks, you know. I'd love to learn.
London Records re-released The Age of Consent, and they put a whole bunch of demos, etc., on the B-side. Not the B. Find how we call things the B-side and the A-side. It's 2 CDs. One is the proper Age of Consent. Then there's another disc full of radio plays, demos, and stuff like that, etc. And they're released on the October 26th here in the UK.
Great.
Don't know when they released it in the States.
Fantastic. I'd love to talk to you about your creative process, how a song gets into your head and then winds up ultimately either on a demo or a record. I loved working with you because you had very strong visions of where your music was, and the demos that you sent me were fantastic. They were really great, and for a producer, it gave me a strong idea of what you wanted. A lot of people just send me a vocal track and I have to recreate stuff under it, which is fine. But in your case, you have a very strong sound and you have some really great ideas. So if we could talk and help some people that are watching, a lot of people think you have to have a 24-track studio, you know, in your house to do anything, but you can actually do stuff simply with a computer.
Well, you get 64 tracks on a computer. Have as many tracks as you want on a computer, you know.
I had a 24-track studio in my house.
Do you use Apple Mac computers?
Yeah.
Or do you use horrible Windows?
No, I use Apple Mac and I run Logic, and I use it a lot on this channel, and people get to see Logic up and running. I did a live mix yesterday, so I've been with Apple since the Apple IIc when Steve Jobs was still in his garage. So I stayed because I always upgrade. Yeah. Okay, so what is your current either recording or you do records on your setup, right? So that would be your studio. Your final studio is it in your house? Is it in somebody else's house? Or do you do demos here and take it elsewhere? What's your process? You have a song in your head and then you need to get it down. So what's the process from your head, the next steps? If you could step us through just what you normally do, maybe this can help people that are watching.
Okay, well, I tend to write songs with the guitar. For instance, I get the chords together, then I sing along, see if it works. Then I'll go to Logic and replace the guitar with keyboard sounds, etc., etc. and then I'll place the drums on, but I get someone in to do the drums for me, because I don't really understand it. I'm not a drummer. I play bagpipes, guitar, synthesizer, bass guitar, piano, organ, piano accordion, and whatever else is handy. I can't play violin, but who plays violins these days? But it's all on a keyboard, you know.
Do you have bagpipes at where you are now? Do you actually have bagpipes?
Bagpipes.
Oh my God, maybe.
No, they're in my Scottish house.
Oh, I was going to say we should have you get, play bagpipes for us. So okay, so you get all that stuff down. You record in Logic, I would assume.
I use Logic. We tend to use Ableton Live. I do my side on Logic, then we transfer it all over to Ableton Live, and then Ian takes over. He does all the drums and arranges, etc., etc.
I want to say something. So when you say you work with Ian, a lot of people don't understand this. You finish the project in Logic, and then you email him or you file transfer him the session file from Ableton, and then he works on it at his studio. I want a lot of people to understand that, because you can do collaborations these days, which we couldn't do in the past. You could send stuff around the world. It doesn't make a difference as long as somebody has an internet connection. You could work with anybody around the world through file transfer. So I just wanted to put that in, because a lot of people don't understand that. And then Ian finishes tracks, and what happens from that point? Do you mix it? Does he mix it? Do you send it to somebody else?
He mixes it, gets the finished track, then we bring the singer in.
Ah.
Then everything then.
And the vocals are done by you, or the vocals done at his place?
Vocals are done in Ian's place. We record Stephen's vocals there. Once that's complete, we then put it through a mastering process. LANDR we use.
Correct.
Lander.
Mm-hmm. I know it.
Plenty of mastering software these days.
People have asked me what Lander is like. Are you happy with the look, I want to let everybody know there's no one perfect way to master, as long as your levels are good. I use Stephen Slate. Steve Bronski uses Lander. Are you happy with Lander? Does he do it? Do you do it? Do you happy with the result of it? Because somebody asked me if it's any good, so I'm asking for them.
Well, of course, Lander really helps. You know, it's like you finish your track, you think it sounds really good, then you put it through Lander, and it sounds brilliant.
That's the joy of mastering. If you're watching this and you don't understand what mastering art is, you do a mix, and then there's one final step where you have a chance to sweeten the sound, bring the levels up without turning the needles into the red. I'm trying to talk in layman's terms. And if it doesn't have bass, or if the high end is a little dull, that's your last final exit before the highway to sweeten it up and make it sound like a radio record. And mastering gets that sound. A lot of people do music, and when you listen to your music in your headphones and then you listen to that record, you go, how come my stuff can't sound like that? And a lot of times that mastering process, if you've recorded halfway well, will make that your record sound like a real record, I want to say. But the mastering process also has another
dimension.
Yeah, it also has another thing that it does. It keeps your levels as loud as possible without going into the red and distorting it. So you're competitive with everybody else. Suddenly your record sounds just as sweet and full and nice as the next person's. It gives that commercial polish to it. So I wanted to let people know. So when you release your music, do you use Bandcamp or CD Baby, or do you press vinyl, so people can understand the process now once you've got your record recorded and mastered? And by the way, folks, if you can't do mastering, there are places online where you can upload your stuff and they will master it and send it back to you. So don't let that be a hang-up. So Steve, how do you get your record out there once it's been, polished and mastered and you're happy with it? What services do you use? What process do you use?
Well, first process is we put it on a USB stick, then we give it to the record company, and they press it into CDs. They stream it. They do what record companies do these days. By the way, they're not really a record company. I think they're more of a music company.
Yeah.
Because they don't have records anymore.
Yeah, yeah. A multimedia company, I guess you can call them now. They've changed. So you do not self-publish. You do not self-publish your records. You usually rely on record companies to do that.
Well, with Bronski, we do it that way. For my own solo stuff, I use labels like Bandcamp or I forget SoundCloud. I use quite a lot. I've got my own websites. I've got Facebook sites. I've got a Bronski website.
Can you
sell stuff there?
Can you explain to people what Bandcamp does? I mean, I know what it does, but hearing you, if you want to release music, let them know there's CD Baby, there's Bandcamp, and a couple of other companies. Can you let them know what this does for you and how this helps you release your music?
Well, you upload your tracks to Bandcamp or
CD Baby or one of those places. Yeah, yeah.
It's online. Anyone can buy it anywhere in the world then.
Which is really fantastic for us artists. I don't need to ask whether you've got paid, but in my case, I never got paid for my music until I was able to release my own material. And then if stuff was sold, it finally came to me and was not filtered through a record company. So for independent artists, I think it's fantastic. You can put your music out, and within 4 or 5 days, you'll probably be in your local country iTunes stores and Amazon stores, and within a week or two, you're in 100 digital outlets around the world. So it's a new day and a new age for people releasing music. Fantastic. All right. So what are you working on currently?
I'm working on some solo material, and I'm also working on the next Bronski album, which is called Pink Pound Dollar Euro.
Great.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Is there a...
And I'm working with various singers on different projects and really enjoying myself. All I do is think of music all the time. I even dream music. Can you believe that?
I absolutely can do it. You are a real musician. I can't play piano, I can't play guitar or bagpipes for that matter. When I create music, it's like needlepoint. I do step editing and pick until I get a sound or a chord. So you're blessed with that gift that I don't have. I mean, everything that I do, I write, but I don't know anything about music theory like you do. You could probably take chords and invert them. But I want to say that because a lot of people watching this make music and, like myself, were intimidated. I can't write music because I don't know about music, and I tell people just use your ears and do something that sounds good. We all have our weaknesses, you know. And it's great that you do what you do, and you have a sound which I think is fantastic. What is your little or big synthesizer setup? Are you using real instruments or are you using plugins? I think we've got a little delay. Can you hear me?
I could turn this into a song, what we're doing right now.
Oh, really? Great.
Just the way my mind is. Yeah. Man, Parrish on the guitar, and Parrish on the mic. Oh, we got the tune. So we turn that into a tune, then we go to Logic, do our backing, and then we go to Eanes and he'd finish it, etc., etc.
Are you using live synths, physical synths, or are you using plugins?
We use a mixture. We've got the got a Roland Juno, which is quite interesting.
That was a Roland Juno.
But I tend to use plugins myself.
Do you have any favorite plugins?
Pardon?
Do you have any favorite plugins?
Are we doing this in French?
Yes, we are. Do you have any favorite plugins that you seem to use a lot?
Yes, I can't remember the name of them offhand.
Okay, great. That's not a problem. All right. Well, this is fantastic. We've got some great stuff, and I think some people can hear, get an idea of the creative process, and I'm glad we could speak. We play a little game, and I'd like to know if you want to play it. It's called 1, 2, 3, and I ask everybody. You have one of three evils. The first one is the filthiest sexual question that anybody has ever asked you. Or number 2, you could sing a chorus or a verse of any song that you like. Or number 3, you have to make the loudest, most disgusting fart sound that you don't have to use your butt, but you can if you want to make the worst fart sound. So you have a choice of 1, 2, or 3. Would you like to play?
Why don't we do all 3? Ask me the first question, go on.
All right, the first question is the most rude, disgusting sexual question that you've ever been asked. And that question would be, not in a movie or a video, what is the biggest cock you've ever seen in person in your life?
Say that again?
What is the biggest dick you've ever seen in your life, not in a porno movie?
Oh, it must have been Larry's cock. It was fucking huge.
Okay, we'll take that as an answer. Let's take it like that. Well, you could do your fingers. You could do a little of this to give us an idea. We'll stop at that. Number 2 would be a verse or a chorus of a favorite song that you like. Could be yours or anybody else's.
Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away.
Yes, all right, great. And no, we don't want that song. Yeah. It was a male stripper. And the last one would be the worst fart sound that you could make. You took the challenge really great and did all 3. Fantastic. We need to. All right, I'd love to thank you so much, so much for for helping us out. I hope that people get to hear the creative process and find out what the biggest dick you've ever seen. This is a really interesting channel. Is there how do people reach you, or how do they get to your music? Or if they want to communicate with you, is it through Facebook or some other way? Could you give a website or a Facebook? Could you let people know right now? If they want to listen to your music?
Well, they can write to me via Facebook. Sometimes we can chat in Messenger, etc.
And that's
I'm
Steve
not giving
Bronski?
my email, obviously.
No, I know. But is it is it Facebook/Steve Bronski, or is it Bronski Beat?
No, it's Steve Bronski. I've also got Bronski Beat Music. I've got several Facebooks, of course.
Great.
And we've got our own website, which is bronskibeat.club.
That's great.
All one word, all one place.
So they'll be able to contact you. And can they listen to music at bronskibeat.com and get some history? Or do they go to iTunes or that sort of thing to hear your music? Or
no, you can listen to us on Bronski Beat Music on Facebook, or you can listen to us on YouTube, or you can go and buy yourself a CD or stream the music, do whatever you want.
All right.
I'm not dictative, you know.
All right, fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for helping me out and letting people understand the creative process. We're going to try to talk to as many people as possible. I'm a virgin, and you were my first. I want you to know that. And
I am honored.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can tell everybody that you were my first, and I liked it, and I want more. There you go. Thank you so much for doing this, Steve. I love you. I hope we do some new music and additional music together. We'll get our crazy friend Manoush from Germany, who's a woman who looks like a tranny now, practically, from all the plastic surgery, and I love her for it. She's completely out of her mind.
Actually, She's a movie star, remember?
I know. We have a friend, Manoush, who does horror films. All those, not even grade B, grade D horror films where they get their heads chopped off. She's the girl with the big tits that walks in and they chop her head off or eat her face off or something like that. And I love her. She's completely twisted. Manoush, I hope you're watching, darling. Anyway, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I love you dearly, and I hope we get to do something in the future.
I certainly hope so. Okay, thank you, man.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Get a real